Welcome to another edition of Baseball for Maniacs. Today's topic is going to be the Phillies 2026 outfield outlook. And this video is going to go under the notion that the Phillies don't make any additions to their outfield in free agency or via trade because Dave Dombrowski has already told us that he's not only content with this ball club, he was content with the outfield after the Adolis Garcia signing. Now, some people might say, that's just GM talk. But no, I firmly believe he is content. So everyone knows in my ideal world, I'd re-sign Harrison Bader. I don't think that's happening. But let's just go over what we have going in. And unfortunately, I don't think it's very good. So starting in right field, Adolis Garcia. So when initially we signed Adolis Garcia, I was very excited. I think he was a clear upgrade over Nick Castellanos, but I was also into the notion that we'd bring back Bader, trade Marsh, or even keep Marsh and trade Bader. But Adolis Garcia will be the starting right fielder for the Philadelphia Phillies, and we signed him to a 1-year, $10 million contract, the exact same thing we did with Max Kepler. So we're taking a flyer. And a lot of people say he should have gone out and got Tucker. He should have gone out and got Bellinger. The thing is, Nick Castellanos is still going to be on the books for at least 18, 19 million. There's a chance we could eat the entire salary. So I kind of understand why they weren't in the market for Tucker because they don't really have the money. And everyone says, well, John Middleton, he's a billionaire. He has money. Look, John Middleton doesn't have as much money as Steve Cohen or the Dodgers ownership. That's the fact. Now, I would have wanted Bo Bichette, of course, because I feel like that would have fit the team a little bit better. But the Adolis Garcia signing makes sense to me under the notion that they were going to bring back Bader, but that's not happening. Nevertheless, I am excited about Adolis Garcia. I think there's a chance he does have a bounce back year, but let's look at his 2025 stats because they're not good. He had a 2.7 WAR, so already better than Castellanos, right? Because he plays pretty good defense. 19 homers, but he only batted 227. The OPS was 665 and a 93 OPS plus. So I don't mind the signing, but the problem is, in my opinion, is if he struggles, who's really going to replace him? And for all these outfield positions, I've given a top number one option, which is the person that's going to start on opening day, a number two option, and a number three option, to where if Adolis Garcia struggles, someone's going to have to replace him. So if Adolis Garcia struggles and loses his starting job, I think Gabriel Rincones Jr. is the guy to replace him. Now, it's not going to be a full replacement because I think there's a world where Rincones comes up, only hits against righties, because if you look at his minor league stats, he was terrible against lefties, but he mashed righties. Similar to when it was Max Kepler and Nick Castellanos. So Max Kepler lost his full-time starting job when Harrison Bader had that second half dominant. So he had to play every day. And the odd man out was Nick Castellanos because he wasn't playing well. But Nick Castellanos still played against lefties. I think that's a situation that could happen with the Philadelphia Phillies. So if Adolis Garcia struggles, I would put Rincones Jr. in there, give him a shot. Now, it's going to be iffy to where, because my third option for right field will be a trade candidate. And that's going to be my third option for a lot of the outfield positions. Because if you are really struggling in the outfield, your job as president of baseball operations is to make a trade. But I think Adolis Garcia at least gets 2 months of full run. But if it's apparent that he is who he was the last 2 years, I think you got to give Gabriel Rincones a shot at the latest mid-June, because you have to see what you have in him before you go and address the team at the trade deadline. That's kind of what I wanted them to do with Justin Crawford last year. Let him get some run in June to see if he's ready. Because here's the thing. I love the Harrison Bader trade. It worked out. It was one of Dave's best trades. But let's say Justin Crawford got called up last year and he was raking the ball and it was proven that he was ready for the big leagues. Then you could have addressed another area of the team, maybe more bullpen help. And we got Yohan Duran, so I'm not complaining, but maybe you get another guy. Maybe that would have made a difference. So I'm just imploring the Phillies that pull the plug earlier on Adolis Garcia than you did Max Kepler. And then center field. Hopefully my laptop doesn't die on you guys during the video. But center field right now is going to be Justin Crawford if no moves are made. And Justin Crawford has got to get at least 3 months of run. Now, I heard this on the Philly show. They said the same thing. The only way you would send Justin Crawford down earlier than 3 months is if he's batting like 100, 120. Like, if it's that bad and it's really apparent he needs to go back to Triple A and make adjustments, obviously you pull the plug. But even if he's batting like 210, 215, you're just going to have to let the young kid rock. Like, that's what you have to do because you've already made it apparent that you're not going to upgrade the outfield with bringing back Harrison Bader or making a creative trade, which is impossible for Dave Nabrowski. So Justin Crawford is going to get at least 3 months of run unless he completely struggles. And then the only backup option I really have is Johan Rojas. And I love me some Johan Rojas, one of my favorite prospects. Obviously didn't work out, but who else replaced center field? We can't do Brandon Marsh in center field just because of how bad his defense is out there. He's a really good defensive left fielder. He's a nightmare in center field based on the reads he simply can't get. So, and then my third option for center field would be a trade piece, right? Maybe bring back Harrison Bader. I don't know, at the deadline. That'd be funny. But it just goes to the point, Johan Rojas will probably never get a chance to play every day with the Phillies. And you can't really blame the Phillies organization because he couldn't hit. He struggled. But right now, with the current assets we have, Johan Rojas would be the second option. And then the third option would be a trade candidate. Left field. So Brandon Marsh is going to play against righties, and I think right now, if everything stays the same, Otto Kemp is going to be his platoon partner. So I'm not as worried about left field. Now, ideally, like I've said, I would want Justin Crawford to play left field, bring back Harrison Bader, but that looks like that's not going to happen. I would have done that not only because I think Bader and Crawford is better than Crawford and Marsh, but I think Justin Crawford is a better defensive left fielder, and it takes a little pressure off of him compared to being the center fielder. But I'm very confident in Brandon Marsh against right-handed pitching because he's never really struggled against right-handed pitching. He's a career 800 OPS guy, and he plays Gold Glove defense in left field. So left field, I'm not too worried about. It's really center and right field. If I had to rank the positions I'm most worried about in our current outfield, it would be right field from Adolis Garcia because he's been bad the last 2 years. I think there's a chance he rebounds. Justin Crawford. I like Justin Crawford. I think he's going to be a really good major leaguer. Not an all-star, but someone that could play decent enough defense, hit ninth in your lineup, bat 280, 290, maybe 300. So I think, and then my least worried option is left field. Now, Otto Kemp, I'm very high on against against left-handed pitching. I think he's going to mash. And the only way I see Brandon Marsh not being the left fielder for the entire year is if he truly struggles against right-handed pitching, which he hasn't done in his career, so I'm not too worried about it. But let's just say Otto Kemp is crushing against lefties, like 900 OPS, 300, and Brandon Marsh is struggling. I think there's a chance in June that they let Otto Kemp run out there every day in left field. Because if they're as high on Otto Kemp as they have been saying this offseason, now it's like, do you believe what they're saying? Because the Phillies will say one thing and do the complete opposite. But if Marsh is struggling and it's like early June, let Otto Kemp play left field every single day, similar to Adolis Garcia if he struggles. I want the Phillies to get out of this early if they struggle, like early June, mid-June, because then you could give Otto Kemp a semi-extended run a month and a half before the trade deadline to see if he can really be the guy. Because here's the thing. At the trade deadline, even championship teams, they need to improve at the trade deadline. But if you have in-house options and you give them a chance and they perform very well, well, that's another area of the ball club that you don't need to go address at the trade deadline. You can address something else, whether it's starting pitching, bullpen, or infield help. So that's what I kind of want them to do. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think left field is the safest bet. I think Marsh is going to crush against righties. I think Otto Kemp is going to crush against lefties. It's really center field and left field. So we're just going to have to see how this plays out because based on how they play is based on the moves we're going to have to need at the trade deadline. Now, I do have one wild card option. Don't think this is going to happen in 2025, but anything can happen, right? I think if there's a world where Alec Boehm is finally breaking out, probably not going to happen, but let's just say he does. Stott's playing well. Turner's playing well. Excuse me. And the infield is kind of set, right? But Aiden Miller's crushing in AAA. And left field's doing well. Well, Aiden Miller can't fill in at left, if can't fill in center or right. He's just not that player. He's an infielder. I could see a world where Aiden Miller plays left field, but like I said, I don't think left field's going to be a problem. I could see a world where they move Trey Turner to the outfield. They bring up Aiden Miller to play shortstop if everyone in the infield is doing their job, because you have to get the best players in the lineup. You figure out the defense, that's secondary. So I can really see a world where Trey Turner goes and plays center field, and then he just transitions into an outfielder for the rest of his career. I think that's very unlikely. That's why it's my wild card. But I think that's a chance. And what I really want them to do is get creative, dude. Like, the Phillies have not been creative at all. Bryce Harper is not going back to the outfield. I wish he would. I think that there's more options at first base on the trade market and free agency. Now, it really would have been in the beginning of the offseason if you would have got a Pete Alonso, right? Or maybe trade for a Ryan Mountcastle. To where then you can move Harper to right, and then you fix the outfield and first base 2-for-1. But I just don't think the Phillies have any plans on putting Harper back in the outfield. So I really think the only option is Trey Turner goes to the outfield if everyone in the infield is doing their job. If they're not, if Bomer's struggling, Stott's struggling, that's where Aiden Miller can kind of fill in. But that's going to do it for this episode of Baseball for Maniacs. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the 2026 outfield. Do you think it's going to be good? Are you worried like me? Or do you think Adolis Garcia is going to have a resurgent year? Do you think Justin Crawford is going to be the player we thought he was? Do you think left field's going to be okay? Obviously, we want that so we can address other things at the trade deadline. But that's my outlook on the 2026 Philadelphia Phillies outfield. Thanks for joining us. You guys have a good one.